Happy Monday morning, everybody. Chris Lee of Southeastern 16, joined by my co-host Jay Greeson. This morning's show is going to be taking a look at all the week one matchups involving SEC teams. We're going to rate every game, worst to best. Jay and I did the voting on these. We had some disagreements. We will walk you through those because I think that makes the interesting part of the show. What makes a game interesting in my mind may not be what makes the game as interesting in Jay's mind. I think that's the fun part of it. We will tell you why those differences exist. But first of all, we want to tell you about our presenting sponsor, FanDuel, where you can get player props, same game parlays, where FanDuel's SGP menu is deep and impressive. You can really build some fun combinations around player performances and game outcomes. FanDuel's got you covered with competitive odds and tons of betting options. Just remember to bet responsibly and have fun with it. Jay, what do you see of interest at FanDuel this morning?
Well, I think a couple of things, and there are a lot of things that play into the algorithm that allows FanDuel to set their numbers looking for balanced wagers on each side. But in the betting parlance, there are magic numbers out there in point spreads. 7, 3, 14, 10, because of the commonality of the way teams score. I think it's a little telling that the Alabama line against Florida State in week one is now dipped under 14. Maybe that's because of the Jam Miller reports that are circulating that his status is uncertain for the trip to Tallahassee after an injury over the weekend in a scrimmage. And Tennessee has gone over 14 to laying 14.5 against Syracuse in a neutral site. And they just had news that Joey Aguilar is been cemented as their QB1 to start the season. Are those reactions from FanDuel and the rest of the odds makers about some actual news over the weekend? I don't know, but it is an interesting – I've seen that number for Tennessee under 14 until this morning on FanDuel, and I've seen the Alabama number north of 14, and now they've kind of flip-flopped a little bit. And I'll go ahead and tell you, I love Alabama laying 2 touchdowns in Tallahassee. I think they're loaded.
Yeah, I think you're right about that one, too. I think that the predictive computers have got Alabama a bigger favorite than the actual line does. But Florida State is going to be an interesting team. We'll get into that matchup. Gavin, thank you for being here. Welcome. We welcome your comments, your questions, all those types of things as we work down the games from 1 to 16 in order of attractiveness. But first, I've got to remind you about our other sponsor, one of our other 2 sponsors here at the show. That is our friends at GameTime Sidekicks. I do not have my 40-ounce water tumbler in front of me. That is a fixture of the show. Yeah, I left it behind me as I tried to get all my research done to get the show ready. But I do have this beautiful LSU championship mug. They've literally got thousands of these things over at GameTimeSidekicks.com. It is officially licensed stainless steel drinkware. Every SEC school, over 350 other universities. It is top of the market quality as far as construction and ice retention. Put ice in my 40-ouncer this morning. It is still icy. Keeps your hot stuff hot, your cold stuff cold. Tons of designs and logos offered for every school. They even offer the college vault line, which is kind of rare at some places. Everything from stainless steel sippy cups, tumblers, 40-ounce plus bottles, and shaker cups. Go to GameTimeSidekicks.com. Use promo code SE16 for 20% off your entire order. All right, Jay, let's get right into the rankings. And I will pull up my banners here. I'm going to go again from worst game to best game. And I think the worst game on the books in week one is Charleston Southern at Vanderbilt. Now, I think Charleston Southern may be the weakest team that an SEC team will face in week one. That's part of this. I think Vanderbilt will roll pretty handily in this game. I think the line is, 36.5 at FanDuel, Jay?
It is.
So,
and one of the things that is rather telling as somebody who has spent far too much time analyzing lines is when you get a spread that big, you then look at the over-under, and the over-under is only 48.5. So the algorithms are telling you this is a 42-6
Yeah.
type of game, give or take one way or the other. And this will be the least leaned on Diego Pavia will be all season in black and gold.
Yeah, I think honestly it's going to be a bigger blowout than that. I was looking this weekend. Bill Connolly ranked all the 700 and something football teams that play football, and Kent State is the worst team in the FBS, and I think Charleston Southern was like 80 spots worse than them. I think I looked at. I think of all the teams that are playing week 1, according to Connolly's SP Plus, that's the worst one on there. Now I'll give you 2 things of interest, Jay. I think, first of all, that stadium is supposed to be complete, at least the forward-facing thing, so that the aesthetics there at First Bank Stadium are going to be nicer than they've been in a while. You saw the first end zone completed last year. The second one is supposed to be done. And I think maybe the other thing is, let's see somebody other than Diego Pavia. Vanderbilt needs to be up big at halftime and have another quarterback in, because you have got to limit the wear and tear on his body.
No, I completely agree. And with the way he plays the game, and we saw this last year, even if the offensive line is improved for Vandy, he puts himself in so frequently in harm's way that you really need to find a quarterback behind a QB2 you trust.
Yeah. 15. I've got Alabama, A&M. I say we voted on these together. We have a couple of ties. We'll get to those in a minute, but I think we were unanimous on our bottom 4. Alabama, A&M, and Arkansas. Again, that's going to be one of the worst teams in SEC Team C's. I mean, hey, you want to see how it looks with Taylor Green in game 1? Well, really, you don't. You know how it's going to look. Maybe you want to see the defense throw a dominating performance. I can't come up with a lot of interest here, Jay.
No, I agree. Handle your business, turn the page, move along. Even as mediocre as Auburn was last year, Peyton Thorne carved up Alabama A&M. And our friends at FanDuel, like most places, don't typically list numbers. It's very rare if it's a non-ranked team playing an FCS team, which this is.
So do we have a number on that one?
No, there's not a number on the board yet. I'm certain FanDuel will have one game week, as Arkansas fans are wanting to lay the 44 or whatever it's going to be, if I had to guess. But as of currently, we do not have one on the board.
Okay, next up at number 14. And again, this is, I would say, I don't know, the bottom 5 or 6 games aren't that interesting, but you do have some little subplots in them. I think that is how we separated this one. I mean, Long Island at Florida, the Iced Teas against the Gators. Actually, I think they're the Sharks. But anyway, I feel like I stole your line there.
All right.
Well.
Hey, that's a big team picture of people who steal my line.
Right. Well, going to be a big team picture of guys who get in the game for the Gators. I mean, I think the thing that I see of interest in this one, I could have actually ranked it last. I mean, I want to see maybe, do they unwrap DJ Lagway? What does it look like? How healthy does he look? Other than that, I cannot find a lot to tell you that is worth watching here.
Well, I'm also looking into the perimeter at the of no relation Wilson brothers in Dallas and Eugene, because they've had some, are they 100% conversations through preseason practice. And if he's got both of those kids running down the field, I think DJ Lagway's going to have a really big year.
Yeah, I do. I think he is regardless. You just got to stay healthy. But they have loaded up with some talent receiver, brought in a couple of 5 stars. Hopefully they get Eugene Wilson, as you said, healthier this year. I think those are the things that make that one more interesting. Let's get into number 13. This is the first game of the SEC season. And maybe a little bump because it's Thursday and you actually can watch that game rather than mingle it with the other 13 or 14 games, how many are being played. I think, to me, I rank this one a little bit higher. I just want to see what the quarterback situation looks like in Columbia. They'll probably play 2 or 3 guys. Is it Bo Perbula? Is it Sam Horn? How do they look? It is a team with a lot of new transfers. And so I think that is your main point of interest in this one.
I mean, and to see Ahmad Hardy, because I think he's going to get a healthy dose of the first couple 3 drives, and could be one of those old school Herschel Walker type of numbers where he's got 8 carries for 120 yards and he's done midway through the second quarter and comes out after halftime with his shoulder pads off. So, yeah, let's just turn the page. Missouri should be an easy W. And again, no line currently with Missouri unranked and it being a directional school.
Moving on to number 12, we got a line on Georgia State and Ole Miss. I would think that would be in the 30s.
It is 38.5 with an over-under of 61.5. It is the highest published total in terms of points of any SEC game this weekend.
Wow.
Which tells you the FanDuel folks have questions about will that defense be able, will the Land Sharks be able to replicate that dominating crew that just wreaked havoc on everybody across the front 7 last year?
Yeah. They replaced a lot of guys. And I think the interest here to me is Austin Simmons. Plus, Georgia State has been known to show up and be pesky. It's beaten Tennessee and Vanderbilt, among a couple of teams I can think of, over the last 5 or 6 years. So you never know with Georgia State and Atlanta. A lot of talent around that base. They always bring in a lot of transfers. Maybe you don't know exactly what you're going to be seeing. I don't think they give Ole Miss a problem. But this is a team that has shown a little bit of an ability to be a thorn in the side of some SEC teams in recent years.
Well, and Lane Kiffin's involved. So
right. I think the biggest thing to me is Austin Simmons, though. It'll be our first extended look at him in a while. I think he did play in some blowouts last year. He even did play in some key spots. So, I think if we'd seen less of Simmons, it might be a little bit more interesting. But there is that thing. Okay, this is the range of games where there's not a lot of difference. But I think we voted this one a little higher than we could have. Illinois State at Oklahoma. A couple of reasons here, Jay. First of all, I think Illinois State's a little tougher than some of these teams that we're seeing on other opponents' schedules in terms of being an FCS team. I think the other thing is just unveiling that Oklahoma offense. New coaching staff, John Mateer, healthy receivers, healthy linemen, hopefully. I think I just want to see how it looks out of the wrapper in Norman.
Well, the newness factor of it aside, I think this is going to be a complete and total just beatdown. Oklahoma more than a 5-touchdown pick on FanDuel. And I actually think I'm going to talk myself into probably siding with the Sooners here because optics matter with a new OC, with a new quarterback, and with all the conversations around Brent Venables. I can see them really wanting to hang 60 on somebody. Yeah.
I mean, they do need some proof of concept that kind of put the fan base to sleep all last year. You're advertising your answer as your new quarterback. You don't want to come out and have people questioning you game one. Hey, is it your head coach or was it the injuries last year? That's a topic of conversation you don't want coming up.
And not to borrow from their advertising budget that they give to us here at Southeastern 16, FanDuel needs to make a call to John Mateer. I mean, who's a better spokesman right now for the being the face of a gambling couple of minutes? I mean, hey, man, NIL.
That might be bad for him, Jay Greeson.
It could be bad for him. The optics there may not be the best in the world because I'm pretty certain FanDuel. I don't know if they accept Venmo from random people with the message line sports betting.
Right. But leaning into bad form does make it a little interesting from time to time. So there's that too.
My life is bad form way too often.
Right. That might be why we have you on the show sometimes. All right, moving on. All kidding aside, this is where I think games start to get A little bit more interesting. I said a little bit. And I think this one, I think I voted this one higher than you did because UTSA under Jeff Traylor, that is an in-state game. That's a good coach. And he's been there 6 years now. I'm just going to look this up. Going backwards, records have been 7-6, 9-4, 11-3, 12-2, 7-5. No, look, I don't think UTSA is going to go in and beat A&M. But this is a dream matchup for that kind of school. And, there's some questions about A&M with the passing offense. You're playing a team that is not the pushover that some of these other ones are. What's the line on this one at FanDuel, by the way, Jay?
21.5 with a
okay. Well, that's a little lower than I thought. Yeah.
Of 57.5. But to that point, when you're talking about as a perpetually scarred Auburn graduate, when the Jacksonville States and they know it's their Super Bowl, and those teams start hanging around, and the home crowd sphincter gets the size where it's difficult to get a grease BB through it, and the entire aura changes. Fast start's paramount for Texas A&M here, but you let them hang around, and the pressure, the advantages of being at home in games like this. If it's 21-17, either way, midway through the third quarter, those advantages become negatives because of the tension in the building.
Yeah. And look, they're picked second in the American behind Memphis. That's a decent football league. I mean, it's better than some of the other non-Power 5 ones. So I think that's one. I don't know. That's one that I'd keep an eye on, Jay.
I think they're going to. I always use the phrase hiring a coach, money whip somebody. They're just going to athlete whip UTSA in the end.
Yeah. Well, look, let me rephrase that a little bit. Okay. That's one of those that, like, if it's a 7-point game or a 10-point game midway through the third quarter, I'm not as surprised. I think A&M is going to beat them. I think they're going to be a better team this year. I think it's definitely a step up in competition. That's probably what I'm trying to say here from what we've seen.
Well, compared to those bottom feeders that we had, I mean, that's like club versus baby seal. I mean, there's no debating that. Yeah.
All right. Next up, let's go to this one. And you and I had a difference of opinion on this, and I get it. I ranked UTSA A&M higher than this next one. And I'll let you explain, because you were the one that sort of pushed this one a little bit higher. Why do you have this a little bit higher than I do, Marshall and Georgia?
Well, one is the Jim Donnan Bowl. And I've had the pleasure of working with Coach Donnan on various radio shows in years past. And he's just a wonderful fellow who really likes doo-wop music as his radio lead-in. I mean, everything, picture a whole lot of the guys on the streets in New York City in 56 singing around a 55-gallon drum with fire coming up, and he's just, I mean, he's golden. He is a true character. But here's the thing. I think Kirby Smart embraces the disrespect of only being top 5 in the country preseason, not top 1. And I want to see how Gunnar Stockton handles it. Hey, we have more film on Gunnar Stockton than we do Ty Simpson, and really even more than Arch Manning. But there's a whole different kettle of fish when you're QB1. And like a couple of those other names I mentioned, Gunnar Stockton has been handed the keys to a Maserati. So is he going to be able to put his foot on the gas? And is this going to be 28-0 at the end of quarter 1? Is this going to be a celebration? Because, well, and here's the other thing. I voted this higher. I married a girl who went to Georgia. So I know we're going to be watching this regardless. So I'm trying to convince myself on ways that I'm going to be intrigued with the storylines. Georgia is the biggest favorite on the board at FanDuel among SEC teams at 39.5 over Marshall.
Yeah. Here's the other thing, and this is one of the reasons I've got the UTSA game higher. Georgia's last 5 openers going back to 2020 beat Arkansas 37-10, then beat Clemson 10-3, beat Oregon 49-3, beat UT Martin 48-7, and then last year beat Clemson 34-3. Kirby Smart has his teams very prepared for openers. I get you want to see what it looks like with Gunnar Stockton. You want to see, is the receiving and the running back room better? There are things to hear that I want to watch too, but I just feel like this is going to be one of those that you turn on in the second quarter and it's 24-0 with 10 minutes to play before half.
At least 24-0.
Plus, Marshall's having a coaching change because that leads right into this one. Tied at 8th, Mississippi State at Southern Miss. Southern Miss with Charles Huff brought a lot of his team from Marshall. 54 new transfers. And by the way, note the @ here. Southern Miss in Hattiesburg does not get a chance to host a lot of SEC teams. It gets one here. This is one that I think is, what is it on FanDuel? Probably, I'm going to guess it's around 13.
11.5.
11. Okay, so it's lower than I thought. You've got some built-in interest here because of geography and a coaching change.
Well, geography is the starting point, primarily because, look, everybody wants to win their conference. Everybody wants to do whatever they can to get to the postseason. Everybody, whether that's bowl game or the college football playoff. This is a Super Bowl type environment for in Hattiesburg. I mean, this is a chance to not only play toe-to-toe as a relatively close line against an SEC school, an in-state SEC school, but you also get it at home. So the excitement, that place will be jam-packed. It will be a quick start for Southern Miss will make that a very raucous environment that will make it a tough chore for a team that, look, Mississippi State overhauled their roster too. So this is a whole lot of new faces, and this is the name tag bowl.
Yeah. I think Charles Huff is a pretty underrated coach. I think is going to be at a bigger stop than Southern Miss one day, Jay.
Yeah, but these are the games that you get to bigger stops.
Yeah.
And how bigger are we talking? I mean, if you're looking to jump from Hattiesburg to the SEC, you got to win games like this, and not just cover, and not just be competitive. And hey, if you're Jeff Lebby, man, yes, you inherited a world-class bad situation, and you're doing your best to try to fight through it. And at least your quarterback's in Blake Shapen's healthy. So, look, there's a grace period. The grace period shelf life gets cut by half if you lose in Hattiesburg.
Yeah, proof of concept starts game 1 for Jeff Lebby. And we spent a lot of time focusing on Southern Miss. He gets his quarterback back, his starter to begin last year, got hurt early, brought in a lot of transfers, a lot of those guys that washed out at playoff contending type SEC schools, brought in a pretty good receiving room. You would think the defensive line will be better. The more I looked at Mississippi State's roster last week, Jay, the more I think there's enough there to climb out of the bottom. Now, the issue is the schedule. That's going to be brutally, brutally tough. But if you're going to do that, you got to start here.
You do. And you also need to calm any concerns. You don't want to win this game on a field goal.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's move on to, I think I cycler was this one. Let me see. Did we tie in the voting here? No, we have this one as standalone 7. Both of us did. Toledo at Kentucky. This is one a lot of people have circled as an upset. Toledo beat Mississippi State a year ago. Mark Stoops is entering the season on the hot seat in Kentucky. If they can pay the buyout, it goes wrong. That's the question. But a lot of people have called for Toledo, which is probably the best team in the MAC, to upset Kentucky. I'm not sure I'm there. I could see it happening, but I have a feeling the Cats will answer the bell here. But this is a game a lot of people have circled and put the Cats on upset alert.
Well, I mean, they better lean heavily on a defense. Kentucky it's down to 8.5. It started in the summer around 14.
Whoa.
Yes. It's down to 8.5 and a total of 48.5, which, other than Texas, Ohio State, which we'll get to, 48.5 is right there with Vandy and South Carolina among the lowest in the league in week 1.
What would cause a line to move that much 2 weeks before the season? 2 weeks plus.
A overflow of money on one side.
Man, is that about Kentucky or is that about Toledo?
Can I say yes? I mean, look, and this feels like the portion of the show I'm going to go on a tangent here just for a second. I have never been the type of SEC fan that shows up at another team's bowl game in the league and chants SEC. I think that's crap, because if Georgia has unmitigated success, it works against Auburn in terms of recruiting. Same with Alabama, same with LSU. Those people you're competing with year-round to make your program better. But here's the thing. In the age of the college football playoff, in terms of perception, we have got – the league needs a really strong start, because the talking point for the Big Ten backers of the SEC is overrated. Let Toledo go to Lexington and win. Those are those hallmarks. This is that narrative of it just means more really becomes you better win more. And the conversation around all of these non-conference games in week 1, a perfect world for the SEC is going 16-0. And then everybody's thumping their chest. And then it could mean an extra playoff spot or two.
Yeah, the problem for Kentucky in this one, I was looking ahead a little bit, Jay. If you start 0-1, here's what you've got. Ole Miss, Eastern Michigan, then a bye, at South Carolina, at Georgia, then a bye, Texas, Tennessee, at Auburn, Florida. I mean, you could be to the point of the season where if you lose that one and start 0-1, and we said this about Florida last year. Now, I think the difference is Florida is more talented and much better at the quarterback position than Kentucky is with Zach Calzada. But that is one of those situations that could spiral downward really quickly if you lose that opener because of the way the schedule sets up.
And whoever set that schedule, and they get both buys gone before mid-October, that trog home is brutal.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not like it gets a lot easier after where I stopped reading. You got a Tennessee Tech in there, but I mean, I could see Kentucky going 0 for the SEC season, honestly.
Oh, yeah. I got them 16.
Yeah. Okay. What have we got as our next game? Moving on to number 6. Actually, we've got a tie. South Carolina, Virginia Tech in the Beamer Bowl in Atlanta. South Carolina is a notoriously slow starting school. I'm trying to see if we both voted this at 6 or if we had a difference of opinion. We did. Yeah, I voted the next game higher on my list than you did, so it's settled here. Now, I think South Carolina tends to play better. Well, everybody knows they play much better late in the season. You've seen them struggle early. Last year, nearly blew one to Old Dominion, and an Old Dominion team that, frankly, wasn't very good. So you never know. You got the Beamer storyline with Shane going to play against his dad's old school. But I don't know, man. I'm just not a big believer in Virginia Tech. I think Carolina handles this one. I'm I'm not going to say easily, but it had less intrigue for me than it did for you. I get the Beamer storyline, but I just see the other games in front of this one as a lot more interesting.
Well, you've got a potential round one, pick one QB. You also have a guy in Nick Harper who get him on the Mercedes-Benz turf, and that dude, I mean, he is freakishly skilled. Look, this is a make or break year for Brent Pry in Virginia Tech, and this would be a monumental win because you know as well as I do whether he's interested in going there or not. Brent Pry is atop the odds to be the first college football coach fired. He and the other Brent at Arizona. And if that seat gets perpetually hot, there are going to be some old school folks in Blacksburg who are going to say, let's run it back with a Beamer. Now, I don't think South Carolina would let that happen, but you don't know what connections, you don't know what, I mean, Bear Bryant famously said, Mama called me home. I mean, I don't know. I think the motivation side of this is more with the Hokies, and the question marks are more with especially replenishing a defense that was dynamic last year. The question marks land more in Columbia. Do I think they win? Yeah, I do. But I think this game's going to be a competitive, at least through the first three quarters. And, hey, look at the number. FanDuel's got it at South Carolina minus 7.5.
Yeah, I would be surprised if Shane Beamer ends up leaving South Carolina for Virginia Tech. I mean, I get the pull at the heartstrings. You never know. It seemed very comfortable on documentary. I just remember when he was going for that job, I talked to a friend of mine in that market, and like that was the job he had been gunning for a while. But hey, you never know. You never know. I don't think it'll happen, but the family storyline does definitely make this one interesting. Okay, number 5. I had this a spot ahead on my card, but I think the reasoning is the same. I think Tennessee handles Syracuse and probably handles it by double digits. What's the line? 14-ish?
14.5 with a total at 50.5, which is, I think, great respect to a Tennessee defense that could be top 3 or 5 in this league.
Yeah, if not the country. See, I think to me, I don't see Syracuse pulling an upset. Well coached, did lose Kyle McCord, did lose a bunch of players. I think, heck, this may be a 17-3 type game for all we know, but I think it'll be more than that. But I think everybody watching this one for the same reason. I think we expect Tennessee's defense to show up. We want to see what the offense looks like with Joey Aguilar and or whoever else plays behind center.
Well, that's the reason that I had this game in the top 5 is I want to see Joey Aguilar. And here's something that kind of blew my hair back. No quarterback in Knoxville under Josh Heupel has thrown more than 5 interceptions in a season. And that's an impressive number. Joey Aguilar threw 24 interceptions in 24 starts at App State. So if it's whether it's the system, whether it's one read or run, whether it is figuring out, look, I trust Josh Heupel. He's good at this. And amazingly, even for a guy who has resurrected Tennessee and reignited Vol Twitter, he's probably a little bit underrated. But the truth of it is, can you get that 24th DNA gene of being turnover prone out of Joey Aguilar? That's an intriguing pick to me.
That's a crazy stat. I mean,
It
I
is
know
a
that it
crazy
helped a
stat,
little
right?
bit that Milton and Hendon Hooker split time the first year. Not that Hooker was probably going to throw 5 picks for a whole season, but that is amazing. Like you can throw 5 by accident or just bad luck, in a season. So that's yeah. But I think everybody's eyes, including the eyes of everybody in Knoxville, is on that one for a particular reason. I think Syracuse is well coached, but I'll be surprised if this is a game deep into the fourth quarter. But it is of interest for a lot of reasons. All right, moving on. Did we both settle at this one for 4? I think we did. I might have even had this one a little bit lower because I think Alabama's going to crush Florida State. But it's on the road, and you never know, and you have the Ty Simpson storyline. By the way, the line on this is 14-ish, Jay?
Yeah, 13.5 with
Okay.
a FanDuel and a total of 50.5.
Yeah.
Tommy Castellanette better, A, check his mouth at the door, and B, he better be as fast as he believes he is because that Alabama defense is coming.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if this is the year that they can reboot with all the transfers like they did 2 years ago. Last year was just so stinking bad, though, for them.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing else to say. I mean, I thought the Auburn faceplant after winning in 2010, at least that took 2 years to win the program under Chiswick completely unraveled. But, man.
Let's see, our number 3 game. We had a little disagreement on this one, too. You could make the case this is the most interesting game of the SEC season. This is also a Friday night standalone game, which is great in my opinion. I wish we had more of these week ones so you can not have as much competition to watch all these games since we have no conference on conference. But, yeah, this is one of the biggest games of Hugh Freeze's career, Jay.
I had this one higher than you, and that's with all apologies to 2 of the 3 marquee top 10 against top 10 games that involve SEC teams in the opening weekend. Because of the stakes, because of the spotlight, because of look, these are 2 tremendous upside potential offenses, and you can sense that with a over under close to 60 on FanDuel. It's also been a very intriguing storyline through the offseason. It started Auburn roughly a 2 to 3 point favorite. It flipped with all of the conversation around hot seats and whatever else is going on in Auburn, Alabama, to Baylor being favored by a point or 2. And now it is settled on FanDuel as Auburn is a 2.5 point favorite. Look,
Goodness.
I don't think you can overstate the magnitude of this game for Hugh Freeze. I think it is, and in a lot of ways for Jackson Arnold. And it's not just in terms of perception. It's not just in terms of starting the year on the right foot. It is in terms of the connection and the uneasiness of an Auburn fan base that will just flip out if they go to Waco and get pushed around. I mean, he's had back-to-back top 10 recruiting classes. They did very well in the portal. They've got a whole lot of pieces and a whole lot of conversations about future NFL guys on the field. So, look, I'm an Auburn graduate. My Game Time Sidekick Cup tells you that. And do I want Auburn to win? Absolutely. But there is no possible way to overstate this game.
No, I'm in agreement with you. I think Auburn, tell me if I'm wrong here. I don't know that there's a team in the league with a wider range of potential performance, especially given the schedule, than Auburn.
I I think there are a couple that are in that conversation, but Auburn's bell curve is inverted because if the lug nuts get loose and there's a whole lot of hot seat conversation, which will start if they lose to Baylor. And I don't care if it's the Colorado fifth down play. If they lose this game early in the week, some yahoo like me who's got ink stained fingers is going to ask, well, coach, are you feeling the pressure? Period. End of conversation. But the upside is tangible. I had Auburn in the power rankings we did last week a lot higher than you guys. I'm a bigger believer in Auburn than most. I mean, I think they've got a chance to be really good, but I don't know if that's alumni optimism or believing in the talented dudes they have on the field, or am I just pretending that it's the Hugh Freeze of 5 years ago and not the Hugh Freeze of 5 months ago?
Yeah, see, you just outlined like all my reasons. I think their defense has been better than people realize. I think their offense, if Jackson Arnold was like the top 10 in the country recruit he was, and that's the guy they get, then hey, we're having a national, I don't know about a national title conversation. We're having a playoff conversation for sure.
I think Auburn's in that mid-tier. You've got 3 or 4 teams that we expect to be in the playoff conversation. Yeah. I think Auburn, Oklahoma, Missouri, potentially Tennessee, even South Carolina, if they can replenish some defensive guys, are also playoff conversation.
Yeah. Listen to this though. Okay, this is their season. This is kind of a model I've taken SP Plus, FPI, and Kelly Ford. And these are the spreads on the games according to that. Auburn by 3.5 in the Baylor opener. Ball State, Laffer, that's 36. South Alabama, 21. Oklahoma, there will be a 4.5-point dog on the road in that one. A&M, a 6.5-point dog on the road in that one. Georgia, about a 10.5-point dog at home in that one. Missouri, they'll be about a 5-point favorite in that. Arkansas, they'll be a 2.5-point favorite in that. Kentucky, they'll be favored by about 10.5. Vandy, they'll be about a 9-point favorite. Mercer, who cares? And then Alabama will be at about a 10-point dog. That was 5 or 6 games right there that they were, I think, a touch dog, underdog, or favorite or less. And that's half your schedule. I just think there's a lot of swing games. And with a roster and an offense that can go a lot of way, that's why I think they are the biggest wild card in the league.
Concur.
Yeah. All right.
Which is a great line from Catch Me If You Can never mind. I'm just going too deep into the weeds now.
Right. What is the line this morning again?
On Auburn?
Yeah.
2.5.
2.5. Okay. That's wild. Is that unusual to see one flip that much in the offseason? No.
Maybe, but it's not. And remember, it's just whenever you get it. And I'm willing to bet a lot of sharp money between the next 2 weeks. That game's probably going to go off the board at FanDuel closer to a pick 'em.
Yeah. Number 2 and number 1 on my list, and I could understand even voting this game down at 3 for reasons that you said, including the fact that like this feels like maybe a free spot on the bingo card for both programs. I don't know that we can conclude that because there's so much parity in college football, and Texas does have some big time games on the schedule. But to me, anytime you're playing the preseason favorite for the national title against the defending national champ, to me, that's number 1. You disagreed, which is why this ended up at 2. But both of us think this is a terrific game and must watch TV.
Well, it's a bunch of bona fide superstars. I mean, you're probably talking about in the NIL salary cap era, probably the 2 highest payrolls in America.
Yeah,
if I had to guess. And while everybody is fawning over Arch Manning, and certainly for understandable reasons, Jeremiah Smith's the best player in college football. And I don't even know if it's close. But look, as long as neither team gets blown out, both of these teams are going to be in the mix. And Texas's schedule is laughable. Their two biggest games are this one and then at Georgia. And everything else, they should be favored by probably more than a touchdown. So
yeah.
At 10-2, whether you get into Atlanta or not, you're in the playoff, even if you go lay an egg in this one. So this one, I voted Auburn at Baylor higher because of just the stakes. And look, Dave Aranda was on an unbelievably hot seat middle of the year last year before they went on that amazing winning streak to close the season. I mean, he was like 31-30 or something career midway through year 5. And then they flip a switch. And so it's a big year for Baylor because they've got a lot of loaded pieces too. But in terms of this one, it's going to be the marquee game of the weekend. I'm just with and don't even get me started on expanding the playoffs, and the story that broke this weekend about going to 24 or 28 teams in the playoff actually made me physically ill.
Oh,
because we're getting to a place that it's going to completely devalue the best regular season in all of sports. And because if you've got 28 and the Big Ten is floating ideas that the top 7 from the Big Ten and the SEC get in, what are we doing, man? I mean,
yeah.
I'd rather go back to 0 in the college football playoff and do the bowl system. I swear.
Yeah. See, I think they came as close to getting the playoff right last year in the new format. They came unbelievably close to getting it right. They just screwed up the seeding. You change the seeding, and it looks a lot different. I think 12 is a great number. I think I have no issue with how they do the conference champions, given the bids, all that. I think it's like changing the NCAA tournament and expanding that in basketball, which honestly I wish they'd go back to 64. But anyway, I'm with you. That may be about one to vomit over the weekend too. All right, we're going to get into our number one game in a minute, which most of you guys have probably guessed. But before we do that, ROKFORM is the world's strongest magnetic phone case. It has extreme protection, super strong magnets, rock lock secure mounting. It is the most durable and multifunctional phone case and accessories that you can find anywhere at ROKFORM. Paramount is quality. So you can expect the same military grade standards as you do with the accessories, as you do the actual cases. And boy, they got some stuff, including a Bluetooth speaker for your golf cart that's pretty impressive. We love our ROKFORM stuff, the chargers, the cases. Anyway, world's strongest magnetic phone case. Again, I've got one of those. It lives true to the name. ROKFORM.com, ROKFORM.com, SEC 25 for 25% off your order. Also brought to you by FanDuel. Player props, same game parlays with a deep SGP menu and all kinds of fun combinations you can build around player performance, game outcomes. FanDuel's got you covered with competitive odds and betting options. Remember to bet responsibly and have fun with it. Jay, our number one game on the board is, unsurprisingly, if you've followed along, you have deduced this, LSU at Clemson in the other Death Valley. And the line on this one at the moment at FanDuel would be what?
LSU getting 3.5.
Okay.
With a total at 57.5. Kind of lean over there. Questions about LSU's revamped defense. The Baker fella who's their DC has a whole lot of certainly questions about him, but you're talking about probably 2 of the top 3 quarterbacks in the country. You're talking about a whole lot of future NFL dudes running patterns and a bunch of star power in a true road game, in a great environment. If you haven't been to a game at Clemson, look, we can all giggle about the ACC, and that's fine, well and good. But I do know this: a game at Clemson is an experience, brother. And I like everything about this game. I commend both of them for scheduling it. I love true road games in situations like this more than neutral sites, which adds to just the feel. And I'm terrified about what Auburn is going to do, but this is the game I'm most excited about in week 1.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many storylines. These could be the top 2 prospects in next year's NFL draft. Just the quarterbacks alone, Cade Klubnik, Garrett Nussmeier. You've got a couple of first-round defensive linemen minimum on Clemson's defensive line going up against new tackles. You've got what does Harold Perkins look like back and hopefully healthier. You've got the Blake Baker storylines. I do have some questions about LSU's secondary, but I think a lot of the LSU's defense sucks offseason talk has been overbaked. Baker has done some big things, and they do have some talent there. It's not as much as they've had, but they do have some pieces there. I think this could be this one might even go into overtime, Jay. I think this is anybody's ball game.
Yeah, I agree. And just a tremendous matchup, and one that, every storyline you can craft. The questions about Brian Kelly and openers. The LSU's biggest question mark is replacing 2 NFL tackles, and they're having to do it against one of the 3 or 5 best offensive lines in America. It is, it's both your quarterbacks are right there on Mel Kiper's big board. There's everything to like about this game.
Yeah, I think the Brian Kelly storyline is the other interesting one. Like if they don't win this game and he's not been good in openers at LSU, then the heat really, really starts to crank up. I guess the heat is, well, let's do this. Okay. Let's say Hugh Freeze wins at Baylor and Brian Kelly loses at Clemson. I get that that's a game anybody could lose at Clemson. Does the hot seat talk flip a little bit where Hugh Freeze goes off one and Kelly goes to one?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so because of, look, man, I forget which radio show I did, or it was something not on our platform, but I've got Clemson. I've already bet one of our loyal followers in the chat a Game Time Sidekick Cup against a sizable donation to the Super Chat that I think Clemson wins this game. And then if they win this game, I think they're the 1 seed in the college football playoff. Truly. I think they're that good, and the rest of the schedule is that doable. Clemson
could also go undefeated against the ACC and 0-2 against the SEC. I think that's entirely possible. Go 10-2, lose your first game, your last name, LSU and South Carolina.
Which kind of gets back to the talking point I had. This is a monster game for the league, because if LSU finishes 4th, and I think my power rankings has them a little higher than that, but if LSU's 3, 4, or 5, and they win at Clemson, and then Clemson runs the table in their league and wins the conference championship, how could you possibly see them above anybody else in the top 2 or 3 in the league?
Yeah. The seeding part is where it gets interesting, because last year you just had them locked in as conference champions. You could see Clemson. I wonder what, let's say Clemson does run the table in the ACC and loses those 2 games. You have to take a big hit in seeding compared to the league, right? Compared to the SEC, you would think, especially with one of those being at home.
Which is the vested part of everybody across the league. And I'm, again, not a fan of the SEC chance at March Madness or whatever else. I cheer for my team. I don't necessarily cheer for the conference, but the perceptions matter. and especially in week one when we've got this many big games.
Yeah, I think this is the best week one schedule I remember in a long time. Sometimes you just kind of look at it and say, all right, there's 2 or 3 games I could see being interesting on a good day. That's not the case this time. I think once we get to the top half of the power rankings, like there was a legitimate case to be made that all those games were interesting.
Yes.
And especially the top 3. I don't remember a top 3 like this in the SEC since ever, Jay. I don't know.
It is no. I mean, even to the top, if you're talking the top 3 of Texas, Alabama, and Georgia, LSU don't have to apologize to anybody.
No, I think those are 3 teams. Really, you've in my mind, I think you've got 4 playoff teams in the league. If I had to make my picks today, it would be Alabama, Texas, Georgia, LSU in some order. 3 of those 4 teams play. I don't know if Florida State's losable for Alabama. I mean, it is in some world, right? They're not going to, if they play 100 times, they're not going to win every time. I think they'll win. I'm confident in it. But point is, you've got teams playing for a lot that are playing for more at stake in week one than is customary. And that's what makes it fun. And then a lot of other games that are just like, okay, I could see this as being interesting because of a quarterback, a coach, whatever. So I think it's going to be an unusually good week one in the SEC, just in terms of viewing storylines. So anyway, Jay, any parting thoughts on the way out here?
Not overly. Enjoyed our time. Enjoyed the chat. Welcome to a couple of new Baylor fans who have pulled up a chair. And look, we're just counting it down, but we're close. And forever thankful about that, because I'd much rather talk about this league in college football, because I really don't give – I've given all I can at the office about caring about Shedeur Sanders and the fact that Micah Parsons is not signed with the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, well, and I said playoff contenders. Like, I think Auburn-Baylor could be a game that we look up at the end of the year and decide a playoff berth. I mean, the Big 12 is wide open. Baylor ought to contend. Again, we have said, hey, there is a path where Auburn can make the playoff if it plays at the front end of its range. I mean, I would say those 3 games probably at the top stand out, but that one belongs in its own way for more than just coaching stuff too. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. We've got a lot more content coming up. We're going to be doing bold predictions on several other SEC teams. We've got several of those out already. And we've got our regular basketball content every week. Going to be starting up with some baseball content, some fall content in baseball. Probably in the coming weeks, may have some coaching interviews, and we'll probably end up doing a way too early power rankings when I have time to get those together. We will be recapping these games every weekend as they are played. We'll probably have about, I would say on every Saturday, about 3 live streams recapping different windows of viewing time. We'll have one for Baylor and Auburn after that Friday night game. And anyway, we're going to have you covered wall to wall with content here during the football season at Southeastern 16. For Jay Greeson, I'm your host, Chris Lee. Thank you for watching. God bless you. We'll see you again soon with more SEC sports content here at Southeastern 16.